Thank you for that kind introduction. Good morning to everybody. When Naval actually slotted me as the first speaker, I thought I'm going to speak to an empty hall. But amazing to see that Naval himself had to look for a new seat after he finished his talk. So, so great that everybody is here. Before I start off with my presentation, I really want to take time out to thank you, Exchange for Media, both Naval and Anurag, to actually have a forum for independent agencies. You know, Exchange for Media, as we know, is really the voice of our industry. And hats off them for focusing on this category. I know how tough it is. This must be one of the very, very, very rare events that Exchange for Media does, which has hardly any sponsors, right? And in spite of that, to go ahead, do it at a scale, have the awards happening, just tells us their commitment towards this category. And I'm really, really thankful, as somebody who's part of an independent agency, that we have a forum like this. I'm looking forward to a great session, to a great awards session again in the evening. I see a lot of familiar founders whom I've been interacting over a period of time. So a big thank you and a round of applause for Naval, Anurag, and for the E4M group for actually bringing us together on this. Great. So let's start off with my session, where I'm really going to talk about why I feel that the next 10 years is really going to be a game changer for independent digital agencies and overall even for independent agencies, right? One thing that I want everybody to remember, this category itself is very young, right? When you talk about digital marketing itself, I don't think it's more than 20, 25 years old. So literally it's come on its own from the 2000 onwards, right? And there's something very peculiar about the Indian advertising category. We talk about 100,000 crore market. I think this must be the only category in India where we are still dominated by foreign players. And when I say dominated, I'm talking about 90% plus market share. But what is unique is when you look at digital as a category, every large network has built their digital prowess, and when I say everyone, by acquiring independent companies in the last 2 decades. None of them had the capabilities to do it in-house or to nurture it. The only way they could enter, and rightly so, there's absolutely nothing wrong in acquiring, but everyone has built it on the back of Indian entrepreneurs who were first off the block, who took the risk of forming an independent digital company, who wanted to get into digital. I mean, it was like when I started digital, everybody was like, why are you leaving the offline dollars for digital pennies, right? And it's taken almost 20, 22 years for digital today in India to be the number one spending category, right? We're talking about 50, 51, 52% spend depending on who's giving out the figures. But yeah, so that's at the core of it, right? There is so much innovation happening on ground. And today, startups is a very nice word. It's, buzzword. We've heard about it. We read about it. Every day you get up, you read Economic Times. Somebody has become a unicorn. Somebody has raised money. I mean, today it's the norm, right? But to reach here has been a huge journey, and it would have only happened because there were smart individual entrepreneurs who bet on digital, especially in advertising, and have built those companies, right? Why do I think that it will change in the next 10 years? Can we move to the next slide? So that you might have to help them with the, right? So the world has changed, right? And ultimately so must the agencies. I speak to so many brand heads, who work with large network agencies, and one of the things that we keep hearing is that we need them to adapt much faster, we need them to change much faster, we need them to keep up with the times. And that's now happening at the speed of light. Right now everybody is talking about AI, and I'm sure there will be lots of sessions on AI. I'm not going to talk on AI, but the fact that you know, change is coming so fast, especially in the digital category, is a huge advantage for every independent agency out there, because ultimately the power of the entrepreneur to change course, to change the direction of their organization, to look at new technology, to look at a new service line, right? Influencer marketing came out of the blue during COVID. Before that, none of us had heard of it. Okay, today we are talking about a 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 crore category built in the last 4-5 years, right? Again, here, if you see, it was the independent agencies that started off with this service much earlier than before the big boys even realized. Now, with change happening so fast, clients and brands have realized that, and they want to work with independent agencies who can deliver that change, or at least experiment with it, right? Nobody's going to get AI right for the next 2-3 years. But the fact that somewhere somebody is going to make a start and start working on it, and that's how everything has evolved. The same is going to be with agencies, right? And that's again an advantage why I feel that you will suddenly see a lot of activity happening led by independent agencies, because of the sheer fact that it is so hectic and we are changing so fast. Oh, okay. You know, I still remember walking into a pitch many years back, and it was 5-6 agencies, most of them network agencies, and all credentials start, and I was part of a network agency for a long time. That's how I began my career. It starts by saying, "Mera baap kaun hai?" Right? It starts by saying, "I belong to this lineage. This is what they have done across the globe. This is what we've done." Right? Today, those conversations don't matter. It doesn't matter where you come from or what your legacy is. What matters is, what have you done? What is your work? Let's see your work. Have you category knowledge? Have you done some innovations in this? Today, brands and large brands today are ready to accept that. No longer is the conversation that, you know, I'm headquartered in New York and this is what I did, you know, with an American brand or with a Japanese brand or with a French brand. It is about, what have you done in my category, or what is the great work that you've done in our country. So that again is a huge shift, right? And again, the biggest benefactor here is going to be about how agile you are, how quickly can you change and showcase your work. And some of the best work in digital is coming from independent agencies. I mean, and it's reflecting all across, whether it is FEs, whether it's ABBYs, whether it's CAN, you know, you'll see, of course, the traditional agencies are still winning, but the newer ones are really coming from independent companies. So, you know, so there's this huge shift from hierarchy saying that, okay, this is what my lineage was, to the actual hustle that you've done on ground, and what is it that you have to prove. Also, advertising is changing, right? We no longer like to see ads which preaches to us, right? And brands are always trying to balance this, right? How do I get my message to be more authentic, right? How does it not look like advertising? Today, no brand wants to come and do advertising, right? They want authentic messages. Consumers are much smarter. Today, when we see an influencer reel, we know this is paid for and hence this is what's happening. So more and more authenticity becoming important, which means your messages will have to be rooted to the ground, which means that your messages will have to have reality in what's happening. You know, you need a team which is much more rooted, whether it's local nuances, local culture, but at the core of it, be authentic to what you do. This again has, you know, really opened the playing field to a lot of newcomers. I mean, you know, multiple agency founders are going to be speaking today. Some of them are not here, but I mean, just look at the amount of talent that we have across these companies, right? And most of them would be founded in the last 5, 7, 8, 10 years. So if in the last 10 years we've had such a sea change, just imagine how it will get propelled in the next 10 years. And we all know this, homegrown creativity is going global. This is not just advertising, it's across. We are seeing our films are doing better, we are seeing our technicians are doing better. And again, from our own example, I can see that today it's much easier for us as an Indian independent agency to go and launch in a new country, right? Whether you want to launch in Africa, whether you want to launch in the Middle East, whether you want to launch in Southeast Asia, you know, it's much, much, much easier for us because there is respect for the Indian professional. There is respect for the creativity that we have done and we have shown for the last so many decades. So it's a great point today where you walk in as an Indian professional into any country beyond your borders and go and talk to a brand manager across the globe, right? Also, the dynamics are changing, right? The emerging markets are now closer to us. 25, 30 years, you still wanted to go to the West. You still wanted something, you felt very proud saying, oh, I now have a London office or a New York office. No longer today. Today, look at Middle East and Africa. I mean, the MENA region is something that's exploding. They are at least 5 to 7 years behind India when it comes to digital. But if you look at the entire combined market, it's almost a $8 to $10 billion market on digital spends. So it's a huge opportunity for Indian entrepreneurs, for Indian digital agencies to actually go and take their creativity global. And again, by global, I mean the new definition of global, not those traditional markets, most of them saturated, overcrowded, fatigue, but really the new frontiers. And of course, there's AI, there's creators, there's commerce. Now, all of this is going to take that one big thing about, large agencies saying, okay, we've built this for 100 years, we built this 50 years, it's all going to get broken, right? I mean, AI is going to democratize things the way digital did 20 years back. How fast it will do, how it will evolve, we still don't know, right? But it's going to happen. So somebody who's a 10 people unit trying and using AI versus a 100, 200,000 people unit, the output is really going to depend on that particular individual, on how they're really going to use AI to create for brands what they want to create. So that again is going to take away those barriers, where you go and stand up in front of large brands and say that this is what we've done for it. And there are enough case studies today, even in our country, where large brands have worked with independent agencies, have used AI, whether it's a simple output for a commercial, beyond that, for packaging, it's happening, right? And it will evolve. The same thing happens with creators. I mean, we are talking today, we have about 10 million creators in this country and it's only growing. I mean, everybody is a creator. I'm sure half the people in this room are creators. I mean, we don't eat without clicking first. I mean, it's really become that, right? And that again is going to change, right? Brands, remember the authenticity I spoke about, brands want to work with creators, but not the same set of creators, right? And we're going to see the long tail of creators emerge. We're going to see more and more people, and these are accessible to everybody. So it's no longer that if I am part of a large network, only then I can bring the best of creators for the brands. No, so today a creator is aligned to work with anybody. So the entire ecosystem slowly but surely has changed in the last decade, and all of this is adding up for independent agencies to actually take stock of what's happening, see how can they leverage this, and then go to large brands and really leverage, either win against big brands, win against big agencies, or just create memorable work. Collaboration over competition. I remember when 20 years back, early days of digital, my job for almost 2 years was actually to go to the large networks and tell them, let's start a digital agency on our own. We will help you start it, right? And everybody was like, why are you creating competition? Why do you want more people to do that? And the only reason to do that was, if only the large networks at that point of time spoke about digital to clients, would the category grow? And we were successful. We had a partnership with Dentsu as an independent agencies. We partnered with Yahoo and got them into India. I mean, those early days of digital collaborations really work. Today, look at the advantage as independent entrepreneurs we have, right? Naval spoke about how, we've now happy that GoZoop is soon going to be part of our family. Independent agencies have the advantage of collaboration. A WPP cannot go and collaborate tomorrow with a Dentsu or with a Publicis or with somebody else, right? I mean, they just cannot. But can you imagine, right, two good independent agencies with diverse sets coming together to collaborate for a brand? It's a win-win all along. It's great for the brand because they have access to something that is very specific to those two companies coming together. Nothing stops the companies from collaborating, and I have personally seen this, right? I mean, this is something I feel is really our superpower. right? You can collaborate, and collaboration has to be much deeper. It's not just about saying let's merge our creds and then go in front of a client. No, you need to have skin in the game. You need to have some commonality with the founder, right? You need to have a common ethos, but you can then absolutely go and win. There's no reason why we cannot go and win large mandates, right? Today, all large brands work with independent agencies, right? But we would still be your fifth agency, sixth agency, eighth agency. But imagine the power of collaboration. Somebody is extremely good with creative. Somebody is extremely good with tech. Somebody is extremely good with influencer marketing. Somebody is extremely good with media. I mean, all of this can come together. You go as a force. So this is something that whenever I meet founders, and today I'll be meeting a lot of them, this is to really go and tell them that this is really our superpower. Your networks cannot do this. And it's not just about networks, right? It's really about building something that will work for us. Please understand, 10 years from now, if we get all this success, the independent agencies might turn into a network, and hopefully will not repeat the mistakes of the networks. Right, but the opportunity on collaboration is immense. The good news is founders today are mature. Some of the top independent digital agencies in the country are now almost reaching a decade. Right, that's a good period to understand business mechanisms, go through multiple business cycles, understand so there's a maturity that's coming in from the founders as well as the companies that they have founded. So this is a great opportunity for us to collaborate. We at YAAP have been doing it with multiple, some of them actually then become larger, like Gozu, which started from a collaboration and then went into becoming part of the family. But I'm sure the more we do it and across, right? I mean, today as an independent agency, I cannot have 20 offices across India. But if I collaborate with the right partners, I can give the same advantage to the clients, to the brands, saying that, okay, as a network of collaborators who've come together, we can give you that same reach. So collaborations, again, extremely, in my book, this is the real superpower that we have, and we should leverage it much more than we currently do. The entrepreneur mindset, recently there was, the world's largest fintech festival that happens in Bombay, the Global Fintech Fest, and you had Vijay Shekhar of Paytm. I don't know how many of you will see that reel went viral, where he talks about what defines an entrepreneur, right? And it's really about that, you just can't keep an entrepreneur down. Whatever happens, they will find a way to bounce back. This is killer, right? This, as brands become more and more hands-on, as brands move towards authenticity, as brands move towards agility, as brands want to move towards experimentation, the entrepreneur mindset, you cannot, a large network run by professionals, beyond a point, we will not be able to match the entrepreneur mindset of the founders, right? It's not about saying that entrepreneurs are better than professionals, absolutely not. Right, professionals are the backbone of any industry, and so will it be for independent agency. But that entrepreneur mindset really gives you that edge, right? We just need to keep reminding ourselves that have that courage when we go. There's no reason why some of the largest brands today should not be working with independent digital agencies for much larger mandates. Everybody's made a start. Right? And I think this is something again that you cannot engineer. This is again, very unique. This is your DNA. So we should not lose that. Keep reminding ourselves how important the entrepreneur mindset is. Capital, this is something that I keep talking to every founder, that while everybody has a lot of focus on the creative product, on getting the best technology for their organization, I keep telling every founder that your biggest partner in building a large, successful organization is your CFO, right? You need to have a very strong financial discipline in the organization if you have to scale. You need a very astute CFO as part of your team, right? And I'm using the term CFO, it could be anybody, it could be a co-founder who understands finance, who knows how to raise capital, who knows what is the best way to have access to capital, Most independent agencies are extremely good at what they do, but they struggle because of cash flows. If two clients default or they delay payments, the struggle is real, right? So this is something that needs a lot more education. Most of the reason why we have been able to scale is because have a very, very, very able finance team that understands finance, that understands capital. And today the Indian markets allow you to do that, right? Access of capital is much, much, much more. With this kind of access to capital, I see more and more less agencies, entrepreneurs wanting to exit to an international network, right? It's really going to be about how am I going to become built. And today there are lots of founders who are speaking after me who have done that successfully, who built large independent companies, right? Again, capital is something extremely, extremely important. Today it's available, right? Capital is chasing entrepreneurs. It's not just across categories, it's also happening in our category. And we should ensure that we leverage this for the best. And again, I spoke about this. I mean, this is, my teams really put this. This is more a plug for YAAP, but it's really saying that, ensure that you really, really build and have the right services, which is relevant now, which is also relevant for the next 10 years. I'm sure most of good organizations do this. It's something that's extremely important today. Culturally, it's become relevant, but again, something it's a must if you really want to own the next decade. So yeah, so that's really my time. The timer shows that it's time up. If I have to really sum up, let's be bold. It's an era for collaborations. I don't think the entrepreneur today is going to be excited about selling out to a network anymore. There's opportunity to build large organizations. There's opportunity to raise capital from the market. Collaborations, whether it's M&A, whether it's alliances, whether it's partnerships, whether it's JV, I'm sure you'll see a lot more of this. And clients today are the most open than they've ever been, right, to work with independents. It's really for the independent community to come together and leverage that individually for their organizations and collectively as a fraternity, as a sector. Thank you so much for your time.